being surrounded by the music of your family.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, tell us, your father was a personal piano player?
No, but well, he could play 2 songs on the piano. He was a trombone player.
Oh.
And he had a jazz band, a combo, which was called George Freshwater and the 5 Jacks, and then he had another band with a different name. But I grew up listening to him practice, rehearse in our living room, and my mom was a piano player and taught piano, and she taught me piano, and her mom taught her piano, so it's kind of a legacy. So yeah, I grew up with it. Started plunking around on the pots and pans when I was 2 or 3 years old, and then I gradually started going. And Mom said, "Okay, it's time for lessons." So that's how it all started.
Oh, wonderful! And yet you listened to both grandmothers in music. I think that's just marvelous.
I was very, very lucky. My maternal grandmother was quite talented as a piano player, and I played duets with her. My paternal grandmother, who had polio at the age of 8, still managed to play piano and organ, and played duets with her. Back to my maternal grandmother, she played at the silent movies. She played at the local theater, so yeah, it's all there. Grandmother Freshwater played at the church.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you were choirs and folk groups in the 60s and around rock bands in the late 60s and 70s. Influences from classical to heavy rock.
Yep, and everything in between. I was part of a praise band service in Cleveland and one in Arizona for about 7 years total, adding those together. I did party band music in the 80s, so I've had a little taste of this, a little taste of that. And so this new venture of writing the music, though, has really been in the last decade.
And this movement toward the CDs so that we can take home and just be with your music. I was amazed that you said that we were all going to get a copy of your music.
Yeah, my first CD, there's a whole stack of them over the Nuevo Piano, which means new piano, right? If you loosely translate it in Spanish, everybody gets to take one of those home with them today.
How generous of you.
Yeah, it's my first project. There's a classic song that I redid on there. There's a couple of original songs. Well, they're all original except for 2. And it was my first effort in 2012. So, but I think I've still had people comment how much they like that particular CD. So, yeah, I'm pleased to offer that today as a gift.
Well, as you share your music with us and your description of the music, we're going to be aware of what you said is facing you as the amazing way you've prepared to be with us today, and as it is as creative as your music. Tell us about it.
Appreciate it. The little armband here is not part of my style. I'm going to have cervical surgery on October 9th. This will be my second cervical surgery. I had one 9 years ago. And they're going to repair cervical stenosis, where I really have very limited use of my right hand right now. So that's why I'm playing.
Would we have known that as I was playing? Wife Debbie knows that.
It's, I have to ask her to open jars instead of me opening the jars for her. I mean, this is like backwards, right? But I'm not proud. We're going to get through it. So coming out the other end, I hope to be able to come back and play music. The last performance that I had was at St. Anne's Hospital 6 weeks ago, and I could not finish my 2-hour performance, and I had severe pain, and I thought, this is it, this is the end of the line. And at that point, I knew I was going to be facing the surgery.
On October
9th.
Yeah, right.
So on October 9th, everybody say a prayer.
Send our energies.
I'm not proud, I'll take all prayers.
All right, well, take it away.
Okay, well, I did want to just talk a little bit more about the elements of today's presentation, because it is more a presentation and a musical performance. I'm going to explain the creation of my eight projects and what the nemesis for them was, the inception of them, rather. But I wanted to explain how some of the background of my music influenced those decisions on what I chose to record. The creative process in and of itself, because that's a whole different bailiwick with the technology available today. And then I've got samples of music as we go along. Now I do have 8 CDs. They're all over there on that table. And if anybody want to purchase one at the end of the program, you certainly can. Got sale price, always have a sale price. But here are my projects, and we're going to go through them one at a time. We're also going to have some audience participation. We're going to start that right now. So, don't be bashful. Does anybody here play a musical instrument? Aha, there's one. All right. What? You were holding out on me, weren't you? You play some piano, right?
Piano and guitar.
Okay, piano and guitar. And lessons, formally, all that stuff?
Yes.
Good for you. You still stay with it?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to write anything? Okay. Have you ever tried to write anything?
I had to in musical theory.
Okay, there you
I
go.
have to say that I haven't really studied.
You had what with it? You had fun with it?
What was it?
Did you say you had fun doing it? Not so much.
That's probably why I didn't stay with it.
Okay. Well, so the title of my presentation is actually The Joy of Creating Music, because I think creative artists, whether it's painting or writing a book, anybody that's in the creative arts, sculpting, music, if they're going to be creators, there's something that is driving them to do that. And so when I went back and looked at my creative endeavors, I saw a different purpose each time that I created songs. Because rock band, we were going to be great, right? Rock band, us and everybody else in the 70s, everybody had a rock band. We went on the road, and so there was a creative process that was kind of foisted onto our group because we wanted to have our own sound. So the first experience I had songwriting was rock and roll songs, which differed so totally from what I'm doing now. And then involved in the church for about 15 to 20 years, and the praise groups, I also wrote a couple of Christian songs. That was in the 90s. But until I hit 60, which was 9 years ago, I bought myself a piano, grand piano, and then that started this whole love again for the piano. And I thought, creative endeavors can go to the piano now. So, plus I had to have something to do in retirement. So, that was all part and parcel of getting started. So we're going to jump right in. At this point, I'm going to play a song. By the way, that song that I played at the beginning was the beginning of a song called Rhapsody. And it is on my CD, third CD, Trees of Life. And I'll explain a little bit more about Rhapsody as we go on. This first song that I'm going to play, it's going to go through that speaker over there, because I can't possibly play it. This is probably one of the songs that's most classically oriented, and you're going to hear strings and all kinds of stuff in it. It's called 2,000 Miles, and the story behind this song is my wife was 2,000 miles away helping a family with the fire back at Cincinnati, and I was in Tucson. So I was sitting at my piano, and I started writing, had a creative flourish of music, and this all came to me while she was in Ohio. Okay, well, the fun part of that song is y'all get to take that one home with you today. That is on my first CD project. So, like I say, that was a flurry. Actually, I wrote about 15 songs in a matter of about 10 months, and I picked up another 4 songs from the past and included them in the first 2 CD projects. Both of those were 2013.
Tell us what was happening as you were composing what we just listened to and were carried away. This beautiful place.
Thank you. I appreciate that question. Most people ask a question about the inspiration. A lot of these songs that were written in that initial 9-month period there, 2013, were songs that came to me, or I would sit at the keyboard and start experimenting with chords and sequences. So I can't really explain. I sit down at the piano and sometimes it happens. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes I'll get the theme going. That particular song has 3 themes to it. And the angst at the end was to tell the story about how much I was missing my wife, 2,000 miles away. So the song title for that one was easy. The angst, hopefully I got that in the chords at the end, which were played hard and loud. So a lot of it's the dynamics and just experimenting with the sounds. So, and then of course, the texturing of all of this, it was just a piano song. All of them start out as piano songs. And then everything else that you're hearing, it's layered in on top of that. Typically I'll have strings, I'll have a bass, I may have cellos, synthesizers, guitars. I've got a couple songs that have organ in them. So it depends on the mood that I'm trying to get.
Musical composition as you're combining.
It becomes a composition. It starts out as a song, and then it becomes a full-blown composition. That particular track that I just played is one that I'm very proud of because I think it has a lot of complexity to it, and yet at the same time invokes your interest. So not beyond the average listener's ability to listen. And that brings me to another topic, and that's creatively listening to music. I don't know how many of you used to have, the stereo headphones, and whether you were smoking anything or not, where you really get into the music. But creative music, listening to music can be a creativity thing, both for you as the listener and certainly as an artist. Music is closely related to the other fine arts. We've talked about that, rhythm, harmony. But it's essentially a communications art where a person composing the music produces the music, the receiver, the listener. If they get something out of it, you've got communications. And so it's been said that it's an international form of communication because you don't really have to know a language. Music is its own language. So anyway, moving on to Biosphere, that last project is the Cuevo piano. That CD came from the one you're going to get when you go out. It's the one with the black and the keyboard on the front of it is my piano, by the way. Picture of my piano in Tucson. The next one, which was kind of done simultaneously, is called Biosphere. And these are earth songs that have New Age influence and sounds to them. You're going to hear something pretty unusual here, and you're going to say, where's the piano in this one? But I wanted you to hear this just as an example of what can be done with the MIDI technology, musical interface digital technology. And so this next one is called Genesis. Okay, so
Bravo.
from there on, there's another minute and a half. And in that last minute and a half, you have animals coming in, you have people coming in, people on the subway. So that explosion was the meteor. Prior to that explosion, and of course this is where the meteor hits Earth and, dinosaurs, whatever. But the angels singing is tied to the Christian theme of creation. So you have angels singing in the first couple of minutes, and then you have the scientific explanation with the meteors. So I've got both sides covered here. I'm not ruling out either the religious beginnings of the earth or the scientific beginning of the earth. Maybe they're both right. So anyway, that's Biosphere. Now all the songs, not to scare you, not all the songs on Biosphere are that intense. There's melodic songs on that CD as well that are just easy listening songs that aren't as much work as this one. But I wanted to give you an example of what can be done with the technology, because there was no piano or organ or any keyboard sounding instrument in there at all. And those are all done with my keyboard, however.
So
And
you are
selecting
creating
sounds. I
it.
created all of those
And
sounds.
what's happening as you're creating this?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, that
Looking
particular,
at trees,
birds, right.
thinking about the millions of years ago,
Thinking
the
about
dinosaurs.
And then, of course, the birds. You heard the birds. So the birds, thinking about the birds. It's hard to represent bacteria because they are the most populous and still are. So that was the second
Do you
project.
have any comment at this point?
Debbie, you told them about the CDs and each one of
Oh yeah. Well, there's a place. That's good. That's a good segue. My wife reminded me that there is a place in Tucson, Arizona. If you ever get there, you need to go to Biosphere 2, which is an amazing museum that's operated by the University of Arizona. Biosphere 2, and of course we're Biosphere 1. Earth is Biosphere 1. So when they created that museum, they wanted to explain how the Earth is formed. They also set up scientific experiments. If you remember this, it was the 90s that they had the people that lived inside a bubble. That was at Biosphere, and they lived in there for a year and a half to see if they could make it self-sustaining. They grew their own produce. They tried to live amongst themselves without killing each other, all cooped up in a bubble. But it's a fascinating place. When that was taken over by the University of Arizona about 12 years ago, I guess it was 2 years ago, they had a 10th anniversary, and I was invited to perform my CD Biosphere at the Biosphere, which was pretty special, because I think they only had 5 musical groups that whole week of this celebration. So that was kind of nice. Thank you for reminding me, Debbie. She's my best agent and promoter.
I can tell from the expression on her face. She is so proud of you.
Yes.
So happy, yes.
So another source for the music comes from things that I have performed. And some of the things that I perform could be spiritual or Christian, or they could be rock songs or any number of things. When I perform, I have mostly songs from the 60s and 70s. But this particular song is an old, very old song, spiritual song. And I'll just play a little bit of it. It's from the third CD. We're now moving on to Trees of Life. This project is from 2014. This particular song is called Motherless Child. Just do a little bit of this. I'll just leave a couple of notes. Sometimes I feel like a mother's child. Sometimes I feel like a mother's child. Sometimes I feel like a mother's child. A long, long, long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Such a long, long way from home. Long way from home. That's Motherless Child. It goes on for a couple more minutes, but I give you a little taste of it.
Exquisite.
Thank you. And of course, it's soulful and spiritual, and so when I present it, there are some strings on the recorded version, but it's non-vocal on the recorded version. But when I perform it, I try to put that soul into it every time I perform the song, because I can imagine being motherless, and it's everything that's involved in that, being separated from family. There's a lot of current day examples that we can throw into the mix, but we're not going into politics. Okay, the fourth project. I'm going to keep this moving because time flies when you're having fun, right? So that's Trees of Life. It's probably one of my most popular CDs. I've sold more of these than probably any of my other CDs. The second most popular is The Diary, which is my fifth project, which we'll come to in a minute. But Trees of Life, it's got Winter Rhapsody on it. It's got Rhapsody, the first song that I played. It's got Rhapsody on it. To tell you a little bit about the licensing aspect of music.
Before you do,
Okay.
tell us about the voice that you have. Did you take voice lessons? Just comes.
No, I sang in the church, basically. Sang all through the choirs.
You have that comes through.
Yeah, the rasp and the range, I mean, the rasp is there, the range is not, compared to what it would have been 30 years ago. But I probably destroyed my voice a little singing hard rock in the 70s, but I still have a little bit of a voice, so I'll try to project it. And I've been asked, go ahead and do it. You need to do a vocal album. I may do a vocal album someday. I have backing tracks with my singing on it, but it's more like karaoke sound and stuff.
So are you self-taught in terms of voice? Self-taught?
No formal lessons, no.
Oh.
There's a lot of choirs in school.
Yeah, choir. I mean, coached, some great choirs. I mean, I was in the West Point Glee Club, and we had a great director there, Colonel Shelf, and we got a lot of coaching. And Norman Steiger at Ohio State University, I was in the Glee Club at Ohio State when I transferred from West Point. So a lot of Glee Club singing, a lot of choral singing, and a lot of in high school, lots of choirs and breakout groups, and folk groups, and you name it. Any chance that I had to sing, I was singing. So it was learning it by doing it, I guess. Basically, the same with creating the music. Nobody actually taught me how to create music. I just kind of came to me to do it. So, but that's a great question about the voice.
You're so at home with singing.
It's comfortable for me. It takes me to a different place.
Uh-huh.
It takes me to a So anyway, Trees of Life. Back to the first song that I played, which was a short segment of the very beginning of today's presentation. It's called Rhapsody, and it was a song that was originally written by an artist called Dan Siegel. And I used to play around with it and play it in my gigs, my performances, and I enjoyed it so much I thought, I'm going to record it. So I had to contact him because it was a song that was written within the last 10, 12 years. So I had to get his permission, I had to get it licensed. And the people that screened his music said, we're not going to license this until we hear your version of it. So I had to send an MP3 file to his handlers, and he listened to it. And he said, this is a derivative of my song. It's not my song. It's a derivative of my song. And that's because I didn't play it note for note. And anytime you play an artist's music and you don't stick to it extremely close, it's not really considered a cover. It's actually considered an interpretive or derivative interpretation of the song. But he said, I'm going to license it anyway. I like it well enough, I'm going to license it anyway. So. Thank you. Yeah, he did agree to license it. So I don't know how many other musicians have recorded that song, but he let me do it. And I had to pay a licensing fee of like $89. So that's the way it works. You pay a fee of so many cents or dollars for how many ever CDs you're going to produce. So that's an interesting thing. And as I was talking to Ellen earlier this week, I wanted to just briefly touch on copyright. Any song that was written in 1923 or before can be recorded, or any song that's been submitted into the public domain where the copyrights have been released can be recorded without paying royalties or licensing fees. So if you pick an old song, a really old song, like an Al Jolson song, or an old song from, I've got one on one of my albums called Legacies. It's called, my song is called Titanic, and that's the next CD. I'm not going to play Titanic because it's rather long. It's about 5.5 minutes. But my song Titanic is a takeoff or derivative of a song called Songe d'automne, which is French for Dream of Autumn, and it was written by an English waltz king. His name was Archibald Joyce. He wrote the song in 1912. I thought, good to go. I can do this. So I actually got the sheet music, played around with it a little bit, took the middle parts out, recorded it, and didn't have to pay a nickel. So it is on here. There's 15 songs on this album. This is the grandmother that had polio who played right across the street at the church. This is their house, and I used to sit on the swing, and you used to have to go to the outhouse. You didn't have any indoor plumbing, so that was the house as a kid that I used to spend time with. So that's Legacies, and so part of this was going back as an homage to my parents. Both of them had one song that I remember that they both liked so well. It was a song called Perfidia. That's an old jazz song, and it was written, the guy that wrote it, Alberto Dominguez, is a Mexican songwriter. He died in 1975, but his legacy was that whoever owned the copyrights to it, even after he died, there's a trust or something like that. So I had to pay the money to his publishing company who held the rights to it. So I did have to pay a fee for that song. And then Legacies also has an old Civil War song on it. So if you're into old timey stuff, this is the one for you. It's a song called Orally, which is a Civil War song, which later the Army created its own version and had lyric called Army Blue, and then it came on later as called Love Me Tender. And everybody would probably recognize the song Love Me Tender, done by Elvis and probably hundreds, if not thousands of other people. So those songs are on Legacies. Now, there was one special song on Legacies that I did want to play because it has an extremely beautiful flute part on it, and I've been able to perform this live with a flautist, and it's an amazing thing when you have a real flute player playing the flute part with you. This song is called Morning's Fog. This is one of those songs that came to me while I was driving down the road and looking at the weather, looking at the fog. Okay, that's Morning's Fog. I promised
I
on.
feel like I want to applause.
Feel free to applaud.
Applause.
Yeah, it's real stunning when you have a flute player up here with you doing it. It's just makes the hair on your arm stand up when you hear a real flute playing it live. I promised audience participation, so here's your chance. Okay, this next song, you've got a little handout there. You just wrote a song. I'm only going to play a minute and a half of this. You just wrote a song. There's no pencil or anything required, but there's 4 song titles here. And when you listen to this song, you only have one of those 4 titles to pick. You tell me what you think you would call this song. It goes on from there. Okay, now, everybody has to register their votes. Let's start right here. What would you call it out of those 4 choices? The winter one? Winter Reflections? Well, that's one of these 4. Yeah, that's fine.
Midnight to Cleveland.
Oh, you did. There you go. So he said number 3. So that, okay, he said Solace. You said Midnight in Cleveland.
Yeah. When I was listening to it, I just remembered the cold nights, walking the docks, and the wind going through.
There you go.
Loneliness.
Okay, could be Winter Reflections in Cleveland. There you go. But songs mean different things, and you're here to connect. You're going with Solace. Okay, we got Solace there and Solace there.
Winter Reflections.
Winter Reflections. Okay, how about over here?
Number 2.
Number 2. Number 2 is August Sun. I like that.
I'm with the August Sun.
August Sun, back here. Winter. Winter. Sun. Winter.
I know.
She knows. Sun. Solace, okay. August Sun.
Winter.
Winter, okay. Maybe because that it is kind of quiet and sedate, it's like there's nothing going on. It's just maybe cold outside. So I get the winter thing. I did write a song called Winter Reflections, but this is not that. this song I ended up calling Solace. So everybody that got it right gets an extra CD for free. All right, so you get to take your pick from over there. Well, the effort put into it there. Yeah. So August Sun is another song that I wrote. Winter Reflections is a song that I wrote. The Traveler is just something I pulled up to have a fourth choice. I have not written the song yet called The Traveler. But anyway, I thought that would be kind of interesting because as I've told Ellen, and my wife knows this, Debbie knows this for a fact, I will work on a song for a week or 2 weeks or a month or longer, and I'll put it aside and I'll come back and I'll try to finish it. Whether I finish it or not, I still haven't got a song title. So the title comes a lot of times afterwards. I have not really inspired to write a song with a title in mind. The title comes afterwards. So anyway, thanks for participating in that. Now the CD that you won't find over there, the next one, oh wait, the diary is the next one. Do have that one over there. Okay, now this one, diary was done in 2016, so now we're only 3 years ago. And this particular CD was a project based on things that happened, events that happened the year prior in 2015. So there's songs on here that relate to things that happened in 2015 in our personal life. And so there's some fun songs on here as well. We actually saw petroglyphs that year in Arizona and petroglyphs in Ohio. So I have a song that I wrote called Petroglyphs, and this particular song will show you what rhythm can do. This gets a lot of attention on my FM radio stations, and also gets a lot of thumbs up likes on the streaming services. This is Petroglyphs. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's about 4 minutes long.
Debbie dance to this?
Oh, there's also flute on this. I find myself using the flute on about every third song. And there's a little bit of a break in the middle, but that's essentially it. And that song is driven by rhythm. So we all know that you're either listening to the melody, or you're tapping your toe, or some combination thereof. That one, the rhythm just grabbed me, and that was a thing that motivated me to do that. I grabbed that rhythm backing track and used it with my song. So that's just one song in the diary. There's a lot of melodic songs in the diary, so don't get the idea that they're all the same as that one. The next project was the Songbook project, which Ellen's quite aware of this because she actually purchased one of these last year. This is what I'm most proud of. 18 songs of my first 5 albums, which is about 75 songs. I picked 18 to have charted, and so I actually have the sheet music for 18 of my songs. And I put it together, had the transcriptions done, and there's a CD in the back that has all 18 songs. So that was my project that was done in 2017, and which was represented here last summer. At about the same time, and I don't remember if this was released yet or not. This was released about the time that I played here last year. Native Connections. It's done in 2018. May not have been produced by the time I was here. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, I pulled about 7 songs from previous projects that had that native sound. And